Oh, I think.
Oh, it's Zoom or whatever.
No, that was just the.
That's called Tibbetts. Let's continue.
I didn't even stop at
It
Zoom.
was
I'm
like an
yeah, I don't use
umbrella,
you.
which I don't know.
Yeah, I could have used an umbrella because I'm not. And the kids, I should, the kids constantly.
Right.
Scary.
That's good to know.
I'm hoping there will be.
So we have just about a minute left. So if you haven't gotten a bit.ly yet, go ahead and grab that, but it will come up on the bottom of each slide as well. So as we go through, you'll have it, but we will bounce out of the slideshow a lot. So don't think I'm just going to talk to you about slides. There is way more slides in there than we're ever going to approach in the presentation. We'll try and do a poll here before too long so that you can get some input on which part we go to first. But without any doubt, please feel 100% comfortable. Get into the slides and go your own route and don't listen to me at all. No judgment. You have a comfy chair, you have chargers. You do you, and I'll talk away up here.
I like the subtle T-Rex game on the background.
Fresh air.
No, it's not.
Yep. So just a reminder before it goes off, the bit.ly will be on the bottom of the slides. And if you remember PHAUS.edu, you'll be able to get me on Twitter if you put an @ symbol in front of it. If you put .com after it, you'll find a resource tab. And this slide deck, as well as pretty much every one I've done over X number of years, is all on that website. So if you've missed the bit.ly link, just remember PHAUS.edu, you'll get it all. So hopefully you're here for Hidden Google Goodness with me, Patrick Hausman. Again, I won't go through it a second time, but just remember PHAUS.edu. You'll have me on Twitter, you'll have the website, all of that. Also, I would ask that you think about remembering Unison EDU. It is what my Google Innovator project became. It is a nonprofit all about helping schools and educators get the PD and resources they need, whether they have all the resources they need so they don't have any financial issues or they don't have any, and we need to bring them what they need 100% for free. We also make that happen. And there's a small hashtag up there at the very top right. As you learn through any session, if you hear Unison EDU, you hear that it's a team member. If you tweet with that hashtag learn with Unison EDU, you'll automatically be entered to either win a PD customized for you or your school or your entire district, whichever one you would prefer. So remember those. And there's also a range of badges up there. Really twofold. Number one, I want to make sure you know, like I put the effort in to do these things so I can learn these tools and make sure that I'm knowledgeable about them. But even more so, and the bigger reason for me is that I want to make sure I can help as many people get to different certifications that they might want to pursue. So whether it's any of the Google certifications, whether you're looking at Common Sense, WeVideo, any of those things you might see up there, if you're interested in any of those certifications, send me a line at any point. I'd be more than happy to help. So how this is meant to work is I will kind of tiptoe into some things that I really think are cool. But at the same time, as I said at the very beginning, I don't want you to feel like you're locked into that. So I built a table of contents here at the front. If there's something googly you're interested in that is in drawing and design, you can go there at any point. You can explore there the entire time. You can flag me down and ask me a random question that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Completely fine. Explore, get as much as you can out of it while we're here, while I'm here to be able to help out. And before we go too far in, I'm going to open another tab here. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. But if you could go to nearpod.com and throw that code in, that will let me do a quick poll so that I can see, first off, how you're feeling at the beginning of the lesson, but then we're gonna do a poll on those categories. So I can go to a section at least the majority want to see first and really utilize our time as well as we can. So again, if it's nearpod.com, and of course, I can't sign out on the fly, but you should see a box that talks about joining a lesson once you get there. And then you're gonna throw that code in, that is L729G. And I'll leave that up there for a little bit. But once you get there, you should see a meme scale. And I built it in Nearpod purposely because I could ask you and then I could ask people in the chat, but this way, people that are in Zoom, people that are here, you can all be in the same space. But to show you in the room, the slide, just in case it comes up super small for you, you should be able to click it to make it less super teeny.
That's how I feel it.
But you should see a dog scale if you're on the right place, seeing the right thing. And for me, it's gonna be buried way down here in the bottom. But you should see a scale that looks like that. So as we get ready to jump in, as we get ready to start, how are you feeling so far?
We have the code again.
Absolutely. And once you get to the Nearpod, there should be a little square that shows that picture. If you click it, it'll be bigger on your screen so you can see it. Again, should be a poll question there, and then I'll advance it so that we can see the next question in just a moment. But I'm gonna leave that code full screen, at least initially. But this is one of my favorite scales of all time, simply because of number 5. I'm not saying that's how I feel, but my dog is super uncoordinated. And if I played Frisbee with her, that's exactly how she'd catch it. So it makes me laugh every single time. I would say I'm close to a number 9, but I'm a mix of 7 and 9. So I'm tired, but I'm also super happy to be here, super happy to be present. Anybody have any issues jumping into that Nearpod? Should be good. Are we good on the Zoom side too? Perfect. So just as a side note, if you do presentations and you're like me and you like to have as many tabs as you possibly can and maybe not see text anymore, if you come to the end of your URL box where it says edit up there at the top, delete edit and everything after it, type the word present, and it will jump you into nearly full screen presentation mode. But if you are a tab hoarder like me, you can still see your tabs, still jump through your tabs, but yet your presentation isn't teeny with tons of things down the side. So hopefully you maybe didn't know that, and that's one thing you can take. I'm gonna go ahead and jump back to the Nearpod, close our box. Okay. I see some that are towards the tired side, okay? But nothing that I see is overly negative, so I will absolutely take that. So in case you didn't get the bit.ly, I wanted to make sure that I tucked it in here on your screen. If you have the Nearpod open, you should have the presentation there. Just in case you didn't get it already, you can click it there, you can pop it open. I am gonna go past it pretty quickly though, because again, I'll bring the bit.ly up whenever we might need it. Because I want to go ahead and jump to this one, and I'll go ahead and hide the names. But you should now see a poll question on your screen. Again, trying to make it so it's not just driven by me. I don't want to just go through the random Google things that I think are cool. I'd like to get an idea of where you guys are at, what you might want to see. So you should see a poll question that has those different categories. And please feel free to take a few moments before you jump into it. And feel free to click through some of the different things and see, like, I already know most of the things I see in this section. I don't want that. So go ahead and take a few moments, see what you think. And then go ahead and submit that poll in. Oh, exactly what I hoped for. Everything all over. but nicely in the land of Nearpod, when you do a poll question, you can cheat a little bit with the side here. Instead of trying to look at all the little dots, I can just look at those colored boxes and see what we get in. But we'll go ahead and give everybody just a few more seconds. And while that's up, I'll share an interesting side story actually about the shirt that I have on. So how many people have seen this on their screen at one point in time? Were you mildly frustrated when you first saw it? And then you hit the space bar and you went, it's the best thing ever. So this is the dinosaur game you get when you're using Google Chrome and you lose the internet. You see the little T-Rex come up. If you hit the space bar, instantly turns into a game. This shirt, interesting enough, was a random Amazon find. But the interesting twist comes with the relatively low score in the top right, which is 0-122. Having not seen that at all when the shirt was purchased, me and my wife's baby is due on 122.22. Crazy, right? Also, you should do better than this. If you get a better score, put it on Twitter, let me see it. Also, side note, think about your kids that may also want to play this game. It can be disabled at the admin level. But on a side note, we actually had to disable it because we had little ones that would turn their Wi-Fi off so they could play it, which is not quite as clever as the hardwired computers, that they just inched that Ethernet cable out just enough that it broke the connection but didn't come out. And that took a long time to figure out. And I had to say, okay, I'll give you 10 minutes before I turn it off. Okay, so it looks like our leading one, and I'll leave this up. Our leading one is the more Google Gems section. So if you're following along in the slide deck, you're going to be pretty far down towards the bottom. As I went through different things, this section is all about the random things that I thought were really cool, but at the same time, a good chunk of them would be ones that I hadn't heard of before. So I'm going to jump back just because it's a little easier to open new tabs and navigate from there. I'm going to jump out of that full screen. For me, I just go back up into that box and type edit, and it takes you back to editing mode. Present takes you back to that full screen one. All right, so if you want a number, and again, feel completely free to not stick with me. This is meant to be a choose your own adventure. I put that in the slides, but then I saw the CYOA and I thought cover your own, and that didn't work as well. So feel free to choose your own adventure as we go through. And I won't click on all of these. I'm going to do kind of a run through, and then I'll click on a couple that I really kind of want to show you a little more. But as we come down through some of these, this was actually one of my favorite random finds fairly recently, and it's an offshoot of Google. And you can tell a lot of the offshoots by the fact that it'll say with google.com and it's not just .google.com. But as it says there, and you can click the link to pop it open if you want. But the I am remarkable with Google is all about empowering normally underrepresented groups. And that you can become a facilitator, companies can partner. There's trainings, there's all kinds of different things. Like maybe you want to start your own blog, you want to start your own podcast, you want to do something. This is an effort, an offshoot that is all about trying to get you the resources you need to make that happen. And again, a lot of different links on there that you can play with, that you can explore. If you want to see some of the really kind of newer things Google is doing, Area 120, as it says there, a lot of the best ideas that come out of the in-house, like 20% time, that genius hour type things that you've heard of, they end up there on Area 120. So if you click that, you can explore a few things. One of the things that came out of that is Thread It. And as a side note, a decent number of these things are there one day and then some of them disappear. So if you click on something and you love it, just make sure you check it up to the time you're going to use it. But Thread It is almost kind of a Flipgrid type of thing where you can send a video message, people can reply to it. And then as it says, you have essentially a threaded discussion. But it's something that doesn't exist in some of the other Google tools. But again, all of these things you can click, you can explore, you can run through. There's a whole slide on a number of different accessibility things in the world of Google, including designing with accessibility. And if you're in this room, you likely know who Eric Kurtz is. If you don't, I would recommend checking control@achieve.com. It is a huge wealth of resources. And when Eric does some of these different sessions, including this tools for struggling learners, he'll put together a huge Google Doc that is chock full of links, resources, and all kinds of amazing resources all in one spot, all for free. So if you haven't been there recently, or if you don't know about control@achieve.com, definitely check it out. You can go to a page for G Suite resources. Every single thing in G Suite will be there. But this one in particular is going to show you a number of different things. You can see it's almost 10 pages long, and it has all kinds of extensions, websites that do a ton of the different things we think of most when we think of accessibility. Things like text to speech, and I won't scroll all the way down because a lot of those things are going to be right up here at the top, but how can you do things like enhanced readability, all of those different items. How many people in the room are Microsoft users versus Google? I know you're in a session for Google, but does anybody have a district that is Office 365 versus Google? We got at least one, okay. I'm sorry for you, but it's okay. Some people do have both, yes. So I heard that. So if you're lucky enough to have both, I would actually like to be in that camp, because every so often, as we heard in one of the earlier talks today, sometimes you just don't have enough bells and whistles and you want to kind of PowerPoint up the Google Slides presentation. So in the world of Microsoft, you're likely very familiar in the world of accessibility with Immersive Reader. In the world of Google, you might be wishing you had it in more places. And that's where you can go to the Chrome Web Store. And it's essentially a beta version, almost experimental, but you do have Immersive Reader there as well. Is anybody super unfamiliar with what Immersive Reader is? Okay, I see a couple of hands, so I'll go ahead and jump in here. So number one, too, if you use extensions, does everybody use some sort of extension manager? Okay. If you don't, Extensity is one that will allow you to toggle extensions on and off. If you don't have a manager, you likely have noticed it, hopefully, but your device will legitimately slow down if you have all of the extensions you see in this list turned on and running, especially if it's a Chromebook and doesn't have a lot of operating memory there. Once you turn it on, it'll either show up here at the top or it'll show up in your little puzzle piece icon. I'll jump out to any website really works. So once you're on a website that would have some sort of text, if you click on your Immersive Reader icon, it should reload your page into essentially the Immersive Reader interface. And you're going to see it's automatically pulled some of the text out. It's already started to separate it. And if I were to hit play,
to get started, just select some text on your website.
One of the nice things right next to that is you can change the speed really quickly. Right next to that icon, you can change it from male to female, and then you can go up to the top right and actually play with more options there. As far as font size, you can change it to everybody's favorite, Comic Sans. Love it, but it does have the A the right way. So if you're elementary, you know what I mean when I say that. It took me a while because I had no idea, but I got it now. You have different colors.
Cruise down Jefferson Avenue in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas, next to the iconic Texas Theater where Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, and you'll see the color and flavor that makes it one of the most prominent Latino neighborhoods in the city. Civil rights activists in Texas say it's the kind of neighborhood severely impacted by the way Texas Republicans have redrawn the state's congressional maps. Activists say neighborhoods like Oak Cliff are crammed into fewer minority districts to dilute the vote of Latinos, Blacks, and Asians.
Definitely a good extension to have handy, and hopefully be able to convince your tech folks to be able to push it out for you. And I won't go down through all of these, but each one of them, what I tried to do is give you a little link at the top, and then a description of what you might find on that website. How many people are Google Photos users? Show of hands in the chat, feel free to type it in there too. Google Photos was one of my favorite things when I had an iPhone. It's one of my favorite things when I have the Android phone now. But there's a ton of different things in Google Photos that you might not know about as far as creating your own collages, doing your own photo books. All of those things, as in Google a lot of times does, are gonna hide in your side menus. You can make them on your phone, you could make them on your computer. Always a good idea to randomly open Google Photos when you're doing a presentation too. Exactly. As you come down the top, you can obviously see all of these options down here. The part that I would encourage you to play with is the one that says utilities. That's where some of those powerful creation pieces come from. So I at first thought of it as it's a great place to back up all my photos. It's my photo library. But then I stumbled across this, and you see the pieces of being able to create a new movie, creating a new animation, doing a new collage, things like that, that would take the experience of using this. If your students are able to get to it, if you're getting to it, you can take that from just consuming, just looking at those pictures, to actually creating something. And a lot of them are very simple to do. Obviously the collage, you're just gonna click that and then choose all the pictures that you want in the collage. Done, you have a collage printed, ready to go. We all know of TED Talks. There's also a offshoot that are talks at Google. So definitely some very directly tied to education type of talks there, but also a range of others. How many people use Google Translate, whether it's on the web or on the phone? Very cool. Okay. So have you done any of the live conversation side of it before? Those of you that use it, did you know it had that piece? So more app-based, for me, it works a little bit better on the app than it does on like a desktop device, but you can enable almost like a magic conversation feature when you do the app. And as somebody talks in a different language, translates to yours. As you say something, translate back to theirs and plays it for them. I've used it a little bit at school, but I also volunteered at a food pantry locally in Winchester, and it was a lifesaver as different people came in. We have about 2 people that are fluent in Spanish that volunteer. If they're not there, this is a lifesaver for us to be able to connect those things, and even sometimes into like parent-teacher conferences, things like that. All right, so I cheated on this next one, but I'm going to show it anyway. Obviously, this is more of a common sense education resource, but Google was a partner down the line, so I bring it in anyway. How many people have seen / heard of used Wide Open School? Good, so it's brand new for a number of people. Curious, what did you use from it? Did you find a lot of stuff in it? So Wide Open School, and just to make it super simple at the top, wideopenschool.org. It is a website that, as you can see up here at the top, has everything from student activities, family activities, and then in typical kind of common sense fashion, they also have a lot of those different things translated into Spanish. But you're gonna have, as I scroll over these, and I won't click down through a lot, but different guides, and it's not just common sense, it's not just digital citizenship, it is all kinds of different tech tools and things even outside of tech, but you have parent guides, everything down to family services. If I click on the student activities, you can see that it's not just tech, it's all across the board, tons of different things, and it is all my favorite price, which is free. If I can get free, I'm going to take it. If I can somehow convince somebody to give me something not supposed to be free for free, I will do that anytime I can. But tons of resources in my role as a tech coach and doing the different things that I do. I love the different things, number one, that are free, but also the things that have a ton of resources in one spot that people can take a whole lesson, a whole activity, grab it and use it. So Wide Open School there. And then, as you can see, this goes quite a ways down. So I'm going to stop soon on this section and jump back up and see some others that we have looked at. But I didn't want to go there before I played with the one here, and it was linked on that first slide. Has anybody gone down the rabbit hole of experiments.withgoogle.com? Show of hands, how many people have never seen it before today? Oh, I hope you have free time. So this started out as just a little rabbit hole, and then it just expanded, and it just keeps going. So what Google Experiments is, if you hover over collections, you're going to see the different spots where they had to really start categorizing it. And then again, so if you don't have free time, I apologize. You'll notice at the bottom it says view all 19, because the drop-down list would not be big enough. But it's all kinds of different things that have been coded that don't fit into a regular Google tool somewhere out there. And there are things, when I say a ton of different things, there are things across, I would say, pretty much any subject area, and then well outside of things that are educational. There are different experiments in the world of music, for instance, where you can create your own music. There is one where you can stand in front of your webcam and direct a virtual orchestra. There is a Google experiment, and I think it's called Flume, but it allows you to use your phone. You hold your phone in a certain direction, and it shows you what you would see if your phone had tunneled through the earth and came out the other side. Mind blown, right? There's virtual measurement apps. There's all kinds of different things that you can play with. One of the things that scored me points at school during the pandemic wasn't necessarily educational, but you may have seen it on this first slide. It is an experiment, and it actually is an experiment offshoot through Google Arts and Culture. Another huge favorite of mine if you've not played with it, but it is called Puzzle Party. Do we have puzzlers in the room? Okay. I get into it, but I also get frustrated. So I'm a borderline puzzler. If I click on Launch Experiment, if my mouse cooperates, you choose a piece of art. And before you click on the art, but I got a little click happy, down at the bottom of the first screen, you can control whether it's easy, hard, or medium. So if you are a super puzzler, go for hard. This one, you can see I went ahead and rolled with easy. But as you can see, in its simplest form, it's just putting a puzzle together online. But the part that was really nice on the pandemic side is you can share it just like you can other things in typical Google fashion. So people that hadn't seen people in a while, people that were trying to grab their kids virtually and get them all in the same space doing something fun, you're able to throw it into Google Classroom, you're able to share it via the link and have multiple people jump in putting that puzzle together at the same time. I won't go really any more into this one, but trust me when I say there is a ton of different things in there. And it is definitely worth your time. And I know time is actually absolutely precious this year. But if you can find some free time to carve out, it is definitely a website that I would say you can, without doubt, find things that are educational. And if nothing else, you can find some things that'll take your mind off of a lot of the other stressful goodness happening right now. As you come down from there, you'll have a range of different things that include things like teachable machines and being able to use that to possibly look at machine learning with your kids. One of my favorite things, and I will stop momentarily on this one, how many people have the Google Opinions reward app on their phone? Ooh, only one hand. You'll like me for this too. This is a super simple app. It randomly sends you questions about where you might have just been. Or evaluate this thing. Is this a good YouTube recommendation based on something else you watched? But then the part that I love is not only is it free, but this one is free and it gives you money. I have the 100 gigabyte plan for Google storage. I have never paid for it.
That's what I use it for.
There you go. Great minds thinking alike just now. And it's not like surveys all the time, it's not notifications all the time, but it is enough that I have done movies out of the Google Play Store, didn't pay anything for them, and I've never paid for that storage. It works on iPhones, it works on Android. My wife does it and she has it pay out to her through PayPal. So definitely something to check out if you're willing to take a few seconds to do them. Couple others that I'll touch on here. This one is probably one of the more recent ones. I think I added it 2 nights ago. It is called Project Sunroof. Anybody ever heard of Project Sunroof? So Project Sunroof, if you click that link, came out of if I remember correctly, it came out of a 20% time project. It is actually allowing you to, with the power of Google Earth, find your house and then see how much solar power could actually save you in the long run. And you can see as you scroll down, it'll give you all of the information and give you some ideas of how it works. So again, this is probably, in the scheme of things, putting this presentation together is probably the most fun that I've had. Putting anything together, just because it was one of those times where I actually gave myself permission every so often, dive down every rabbit hole, click every link I can find, and see what the craziest stuff is that I can find that I've never heard of. And this is one of those things where I came across, I'm like, this is probably fake. Not fake. And you can see there's a decent bit more in this section as you scroll down. There's a number of different reading apps. This page is actually one, and it's on the very last slide. If you go to about.google and /projects, it is actually a page that shows you most, not all of these random offshoots, but most of the Google apps on one page. With that, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to jump back to the Nearpod in a second, but believe it or not, we're halfway through. So what I would like you to do, or encourage you to do, you can have any type of brain break you wish. Everybody that's on the Zoom side, I will direct you up to slide number 8. And go ahead, we're gonna pause here for at least a couple minutes so you have some time that's not just me talking at you. You have 5 different games that you might have seen from your childhood there. Go ahead and jump in. In a couple moments, I'll see if we have any high scores people are willing to share out. I don't know if you can beat a solitaire game that fast, but have at that if you wish. But I'm gonna go ahead and pause there for just a couple minutes here, because again, I don't want it to just be me, and I want you to have some exploration time too.
Snake is fast.
Isn't Minesweeper one not working?
Yeah.
So if you just open a Google window and just search Minesweeper, you should get it right there. But I'll swap the link in hopes that that will stay that way for us. Does anybody remember playing like Snake on a phone that had physical buttons?
Like a Nokia.
Mm-hmm. Still favorite phone that I've had to this day. Maybe not favorite, but I think it was an LG, but it flipped open, full keyboard, second screen inside. Love that phone. And please feel free to have your sound on. I'm a little disappointed I don't hear Pac-Man noises right now. We'll go another minute or 2 yet, but please feel free to keep playing afterwards. No judgment at all. I heard a ghost noise, so I'm proud of somebody. You've made it at least a little ways. Is anybody so young that you don't recognize all the game noises or not only the noises, but the names? Okay. I'm gonna jump back in about a minute, but again, all I would ask is you turn the sound down. You do not have to exit. How many, who's on Pac-Man right now? How many levels deep did you get so far? Okay, I won't ask you any more questions. I don't want to be the reason the ghost gets you.
Can't see it.
No, you think?
I did just support Redbubble though and buy that shirt for my husband. 'Cause he has to have that. I couldn't find it on Amazon.
I made it.
It was a deep dive by my wife. I said, I want the T-Rex game. I don't know where it is.
There's a ton of them now.
Okay, so the next thing that I saw listed on there was Google Workspace. So we'll go ahead and jump through a few of the things in here, and then with some of the time left, I'll show you a couple of my favorites, and we'll be wrapped up, and hopefully we have some good dinner plans out and about. I'm told it's still decently warm, but the sun has taken a chance to call it a day early. So as we come down through here, in the world of different Google things, how many people have heard of a Google Applied Digital Skills? Show of hands in the chat, feel free to type in there. We do have a decent number of hands there, so I'll make this one kind of short and sweet. In the world of Google, if you're interested in getting a curriculum, getting lessons that you don't have to do anything with as far as being able to teach it, Applied Digital Skills is a great place to start. It has a ton of different lessons in it. If you do the applieddigitalskills.withgoogle.com or click the link in the slide deck, you then would scroll down and click on teacher. And I'll just scroll quickly to the bottom here so you can get an idea of what it looks like. I'll click on this first one that is the write an if then story, which in other words is a choose your own adventure story. And some of these Applied Digital Skills, if you've heard of CS First before, it's nearly the same thing, but more towards the computer science side. Some of these need to be turned on by your Google admin. So if you go to some of the links and it doesn't work for you, remember to do that tech support ticket, see if they'll get that turned on for you. But one of the things I like about this is a lot of times when I talk to teachers, when we look at doing new things, one of the big things is I gotta teach my content. I can't teach the tech at the same time. I don't have enough time to do both. This Applied Digital Skills is a nice way that Google can front load that content for you. They give you all the video instruction that the students would need. They tell you roughly how much time it's going to take, the tools that it's going to teach them to do, and then also the skills that lesson's going to build in. For instance, in an if then story, they might use docs to help plan it out, and then they might build it in slides, and they're going to learn some collaboration as they work together with people to do the project. Some presentation formatting, so some skills there is also into the design side. So not just putting text on the slide, putting images on the slide, but why don't you put navy text on a black background? And then how do you link certain slides to other slides so people can actually choose and make their way through? But you can, even before you log in or do anything with it, you can go and see the entire lesson. Anytime you see one of the carrots, you can drop it down and see all the different pieces from those different lessons, how it's going to work, a wrap up, and some sort of an assessment piece rated. If you have the teacher side, you can actually assign it out to the kids. And again, it's a nice thing that is 100% free that allows you to not have to necessarily teach them both at the exact same time. Couple things just kind of on the generic side in Google land. Some of you probably use these already, But in the world of Google, I tried to capture as many as I knew of, and there's a decent number more out there, but all of the different quick create options. So a lot of times I try and create everything from within Drive, so it's already in the folder I want it in. But if you need something super quick on the fly, you can do a lot of the different things you see there, from docs.new will instantly spin you up a new doc. Slide or presentation.new is going to spin you up a new slides presentation. If you Google like the .new extension to create things, and I'll get it linked in here before too long, there is actually a whole lot more outside of the land of Google that use that as well. I believe Canva might be one of them. Out of the educational side, the tech side, I have been told, I've never used it or tried it, but I'm told that Domino's actually has an extension like that as well, where you can literally just type it in, launches you right to ordering Domino's. Where did I say? Oh, I was presenting at a conference in Chicago and mentioned that. Not a great thing to say in Chicago. We don't like Domino's there. We like deep dish there. And that's all you should speak of. As we come down from there, there's a few other slides on a number of different other things. I'm gonna skip down a few of them and come to the one that is sharing without actually sharing. For a twofold. Number one, I want to get some of these tips out there because I know a lot of times we can put it in our LMS, we can do it that way, but sometimes we need a few ways to share other things. A lot of times I use these more when I'm sharing with staff than with the kids, but also to show you another resource in the land of Google and outside of it. If you've not been to or heard of Tony Vincent and been to Learning in Hand, great website, tons of resources. If you're into Google Drawings in any way, he does amazing things in the world of Google Drawings, one of those lesser used, lesser utilized Google tools. But this is probably one of the greatest kind of summaries, easy to follow ones with different URL hacks. Does pretty much everybody know the Force Make a Copy one? Show of hands, have you used Force Make a Copy? Okay. So the one that is my favorite is actually, so what I've started to do, instead of changing that word edit at the end to copy, to do the force copy, what I do pretty much 100% of the time now, and I know it's longer, takes a few more seconds. If you replace it with template/preview instead of just getting that screen where they don't see anything, they can't tell what they're copying, they actually see the entire document. And instead of clicking make a copy, they click in the top corner, use this template. So it's a really nice way, and I would do it, but this has almost 100 slides in it and it'll take forever to reload. But trust me, it works. I do it almost every day. Just remember /template/preview, and then they get to see everything before they make a copy. And you get a lot more people that'll actually copy it because they can see it first.
So do they have to go in and then they can only see that, and then they can choose to make a copy from that, or does it force them to make a copy?
They have to click the use preview button. So it won't automatically do it. Just like they have to click make a copy, they have to click use template. One of the last things I'll hit in this section is keyboard shortcuts. They're one of my favorite things. I actually just made a potty PD sign with all kinds of different keyboard shortcuts for my teachers to put out. One of the only things that I normally show on this, and it depends on what device you're on. Obviously, Mac people know you normally change command to control back and forth. On a Chromebook, you have to add the Alt into some of them. But for instance, when I'm in Google Slides here, if I click on Control and the / key, it'll come up and show me every keyboard shortcut that fits the app that I'm in. So I don't have a great memory, but I can remember one thing that'll show me everything else. If you ask me random keyboard shortcuts, not going to remember it, but I know how to figure it out. So I'm on a PC, so I'm going to do Control and / or Control ? If you're on a Chromebook, you may have to do Control-Alt and question mark. Mac should work if you substitute Command. I don't have a Mac, but it should. I see a head shaking, so I'm correct on that. One of the nice things, obviously, you can scroll down through this and you can find all the different things, but you can also just search at the top. So if you're looking, is there a keyboard shortcut for this thing? And you can see as you come down through, there's different subsections. And obviously some of these aren't going to be necessarily just slide specific. You're going to have things like Control-C, Control-V that we know is copy, we know is paste. But they're going to have things like duplicate slide. How do you go into the presentation without just clicking present? One of my favorite keyboard shortcuts that I started using a lot more is the one right here that is paste without formatting. How many people do paste without formatting? I saw some head shakes and a few like, yeah. What that does, if you've ever copied something from a website, pasted it into Gmail or somewhere, and it's size 5,000 font, and you get one letter per page, adding Shift to your Control-V wipes that out completely. It pastes it and matches what you're painting it into. It saves a lot of headaches, a lot more time saved there than a lot of other keyboard shortcuts that I've used. We have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to jump back to the Nearpod in just a second and see what our next thing was. How many people are Google Keep users? Great. I will not spend much time on there. Google Keep is how I do every to-do list that I have. In a nutshell, it is online sticky notes, but in typical Google fashion, it can't just be an online sticky note. It's going to do all of those different things that you see there. On the app side, you can obviously also take pictures. You can do audio notes on the app side. You can do drawings. And many of you will probably know this already, but the images, you can go into that three-dot menu and actually use the optical character recognition and pull text from the images as well. So if you're a Google Keep user and you've not played with that before, I would encourage you to get a picture that has some text that you can read, put it into one of your Keep notes, go to that three-dot menu and do the grab text. So let's pop over to Nearpod, resource section. That's a perfect one to share towards the end. So if you scroll way down into the Google goodness, you'll find the resource section. The first slide in there, and this is one that I always recommend. I talked about it a little bit towards the beginning, but if you go to phusedu.com/resources, scroll all the way to the bottom, there'll be a Google Drive folder there that has the past 10, 11 years of different presentations I've done. All there, all linked just like this, where you can bookmark it. They're open to make a copy if you want, but I try and update things. So my recommendation is always to bookmark them, but you have everything there. And when I do different presentations, this one got updated last night and this morning. So I always try to put some new things in there. If you find broken links, let me know. And then I gave you another table of contents that tried to break it down more with different slides. That one may need updated, so I will get that fixed up for you. But the one that is probably the best one to go to if you want other Google goodness, you want to dive into a few other things. If you go to slide 91, all of the different links there are different things, maybe from the slides that are offshoot things or different presentations that all have different kind of off the wall Google things, whether it's tips and tricks, different uses, different tools you might not have heard of, all kinds of different links, all in there for you. The section right above that is some random Google kind of fun things. A lot of you are going to know Google has a habit of and enjoys doing different Easter eggs. So I tried to find a few good posts on that show you a number of different things, including being able to play the T-Rex game without breaking the internet first. The Atari Breakout one, from what I can find, does not work anymore. So if you've used, did anybody do the Atari Breakout Easter egg before? We have one, I can't get it to work, but you used to be able to go to an image search, type in Atari Breakout, and it would change the entire Google image search into an Atari Breakout game. But you can see as you come down, tons of different things on there. How many people have heard of or used, let me Google that for you. Have a hand here. Now, did you use your powers for good or snarkiness? More snarky? It's legit, I get it. With a name like mine, I sometimes use it to show people how to spell my name. This is my website, this is what it looks like. If you've never used it before, essentially what it does is allow you to do a Google search that it then gives you a video link for, so you can email it to that person that asked you the question that they could have answered by Googling it. So you can see that it fits very nicely into the area of snarkiness. So we do have about 10 minutes left, so I'll jump back over here. Ooh, drawing and design, one of my favorite sections in here. How many people are Google Drawings users? Yes, all right. How many people have seen Matt Miller's resources on Google Drawings when you played with Google Drawings? Okay, just a few hands. So if you are a Google Drawings user, a lover of Google Drawings, if you don't click anything else on that slide, check out the page that is the Google Drawings Manifesto from Matt Miller. You can see by the mini scroll bar over there on the right, how much is on this page as far as ideas and different things you can do. I'll stop here at this kind of table that gives you a decent chunk of the ideas. But in kind of typical Matt Miller and ditch that textbook fashion, just about everything you see there isn't just, you can do this with this tool. You're gonna have templates and different things you can make a copy of, use in school the next day to do things like timeline project, infographics, all kinds of those different things that you see up there, including comic strips, blackout poetry. Word art makes an appearance in the insert menu. So if you are a Google person that used to love word art in Microsoft, there's a couple places that it makes a reappearance. Google Drawings is one of them. And one of the things that I saw kind of through that website and through a few others is the thing that you'll see linked down here to Captain Marvel. And it's a blog post, again, it's off of Ditch That Textbook again, but it's all about creating Mosaic Art with Google Drawings using the, I believe it's the Polyline tool. But you can see there's a GIF on the side here where you can kind of cheat a little bit, bring an image in, and then you use that tool to trace it, draw a shape, and then you match the color. Then you trace it, draw another shape, match the color. Eventually, delete the background image, you're left with your mosaic. If you bring that more down to my level, you're gonna have the squirrel with the duck. I could make that. I could not make the other. But I love the fact that you have the templates and then you also have things like legitimate ideas. I believe this one came from, as it says there, Sean Fahey, the idea of like a one-word hyperdoc. So going off of that one-word concept, what's your one word for this year or this kind of unit? It gives you some legit instructional strategies, ideas to use with it. As we come down from there, I'm gonna skip a few slides and I'm gonna jump to this one that says fonts, design, and website resources. And it is number 25. How many people have seen the Google Fonts website before? Just a couple hands. So this works more in the land of if you're on a Mac or a PC. This is fonts that you could actually download to your computer to use in any of the different programs. So it's kind of like having that drop-down menu in the world of Google, but for anything. And as you can see at the top, I can search for the different kind of fonts I want. I could write a sentence in so I can see kind of what that whole thing looks like. I can drop down categories and see that, but you can see that my scroll bar got even smaller. And you can see the probably, if not hundreds, into the world of 1,000+ different fonts, all free, all easily downloaded to your computer to use. And then in typical me fashion, if I see links, I'm gonna click them. So up at the top, you also have one that says icons. And this will link you to another website from the land of Google that has a giant library, even smaller scroll bar of free icons that you can use in any project you want. So if you are on this slide, so slide 25, the fonts icons is linked there for you. But if you're on the font tab right up here at the top, you just click icons right next to that and then scroll down and you get the gigantic list of all kinds of icons. And if you click one, you can also resize them and recolor them as well before you download it. But wait, there's more. And not so intentional, it's actually the more button. I really didn't plan it. But if you click on more, you're gonna see a wealth of other resources here from the land of Google, including some more fonts and icons, but also an entire material design page that walks you through. It has a bunch of different resources on it, but it gets you a little more into the deeper end of design. Why do certain color palettes work together? Why are there different fonts? What are the different font families? So if you're getting more heavily into that design side, you can get a lot of those different things here and get more ideas, and even down to and including some accessibility things. What are some of those things you might not think about as you design different things that you really need to be thinking about? Jump back to our slide deck. There's a ton more resources just on that slide alone. There's another one right after that that has a few more things that are kind of more directly towards the side of art itself. I'm gonna jump back up here. See if I can find the one that I added. Yeah, so I'm gonna end it here because I didn't know this existed until yesterday. So it's a great place to end a hidden Google Tools type of session. And it is, as you can see here on slide 10, it's called Chrome Actions. So if you're not using Google Chrome, you can just sit out for this one. Just play Pac-Man, do something else fun. Don't get angry with me. But if you open the tab there, it'll get you to the Google Help Center and show you in this chart all of the different things that you can do in Chrome just by typing them in the Omnibox. And as you type them in the Omnibox, you will be able to then see an item come up. So I'll just copy and paste one of these. Notice how I get that little Chrome icon and says open an incognito window. That's when you know you've typed one of those Chrome actions correctly, and you can just click it and it does it. If that piece doesn't come up, you haven't typed the action quite correct. But instead of going through the menus, clicking a few different times, I can open the incognito window just by typing the word incognito and clicking that button. With that, we have just a few minutes left. I'm gonna jump back to the Nearpod. If you still have that tab open, one of the things I always like to do, we came into the session, we had an idea of where we were. I'd love to get an idea now, whether you're online in Zoom, whether you're here in the room, how are you feeling now after you've gotten a lot? And I know it's a lot. But what number would you kind of rate things now?
2.
2, I'm taking that as positive. Do we have any 6s? We may have a 5. I think 5 could apply if you got it's just way too much. I really caught that Frisbee with the side of the face. Hopefully everybody is more towards that positive side of things. And the last thing I'm going to do here, and hopefully our sound side works, as we kind of get ready to leave, we start packing up, I'm gonna play you one of my favorite funny, kind of fake Google videos, and it will give you something helpful you may be able to use in virtual land. And I'm not gonna say what it is because I don't want to be blamed if you use it.
Google Fiber, we are passionate about bringing our users super fast internet and ubiquitous connectivity.
But as we rolled out in Kansas City, and then in Provo, and then again in Austin, we realized that there was something that we had overlooked. People didn't have enough time to do the little things in life.
We hear you. You want a chance to grab a snack, to text your mom, to run to the restroom. So today, we are excited to announce dial-up mode, a way for our users to get their time back.
We looked to dial-up and T1 for inspiration, and we found a solution of all places in meditation.
Once we got to the root of the problem, it was easy. By incorporating dial-up technology into the fiber, we were able to slow the photons down by 376 times, giving you more time to load the dishwasher or hug your kids.
It turns out there is power in slowness.
Switching to dial-up mode is easy. Just select dial-up mode at the top right corner of your browser. Once selected, close your eyes and relax to the soothing, familiar sounds of a 56K modem.
Dial-up mode has really benefited my work life. I video conference for work, and last time my boss asked me a tough question, and I was totally caught off guard. Now when faced with a tough question, I just turn on dial-up mode. My face gets all pixelated, my voice goes in and out, and they just reschedule the meeting.
I love dial-up mode. Before dial-up mode, everyone was glued to their devices. Now we can have family time again. I call it dial-up and hug. I've never felt more loved.
When trialed with our trusted testers in Kansas City, we noticed 3 times more calls to grandma, 10 times more hugs, and 15 times the amount of popcorn consumed per household.
We are encouraged by early results, and we're excited to see what you do with dial-up mode. So what are you waiting for? Dial up and hug.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.